In an awesomely ironic rant, Rush Limbaugh is going to brag and blow himself and talk about just how overwhelmingly smart he is. And then he's going to proceed to argue against science.
And here we are back at it, my friends. Rush Limbaugh, your guiding light, the most talked about radio talk show in the country, most talked about host in the country, and the most listened to radio talk show in the country, and a program that meets and surpasses all audience expectations every day. So, as I mentioned earlier, we got this brand new United Nations climate change, global warming scare report out, and nobody is safe. Nobody will go unscathed. Nobody will escape. It's going to wipe everybody out in the next 100 years, when none of us are alive anyway to see whether or not they're correct. Now, I want to emphasize two things. Again, that we had a caller just a moment ago, and he was, by the way, folks, the reason I was laughing about it was, our caller, he was trying to give me a really supreme compliment, and I understood this. He was trying to tell me that I am so smart that I know exactly the right answer to everything, even when I don't know what I'm talking about, is the way he put it. And what he meant was, look, you're not trained in the sciences. You're not a geologist, you're not a climatologist, you're not a meteorologist, and yet you know this stuff. And that's what he was trying to say. It's like, even when I'm right, or when I think I'm wrong, I'm right. And I tell jokes about the left. The jokes come true. And he was trying to pay me a supreme compliment. And for that, I was grateful. And he mentioned two things that I had said. One of the average normal temperature. You know, for this global warming scare stuff to be relevant, the temperatures today and 15 years ago have to be what is normal since the beginning of time. And there is simply no way we know that, because we don't have accurate record keeping for thousands and thousands and billions of years ago. It's a wild guess. You go back and, you can ice cores and tree trunk rings and all this, but we don't know. The point is these climate scientists try to tell you they do know. But if you can just try to get your mind around this one concept, how do we know?
He is so stupid. It's almost like it's a long-running joke. Like it's some sort of a social experiment where he's punking us, and he's been punking us since the early 1990s. Like, he is his own SNL skit. Never in my life have I heard somebody self-aggrandize that much, except maybe Kanye West. And maybe, is there anybody else who really does it that much? I don't think so. But it was so, like, at first I thought, is he joking? Like, he might be joking, but then I listened to it 3 times, and this is the 3rd time now, twice before, once now, and I'm like, no, he doesn't sound like he's fucking joking. I jotted down some of his quotes. Quote, he was like, welcome to the back to the Rush Limbaugh Show. I am, quote, your guiding light, the most thinked about, listened to, show and host, surpassing all of your expectations. Like, what does that even mean? And then I understand the caller when he said, I'm so smart, I don't even get how smart I am. It looks a lot like when a guy talks about how big his dick is. He's usually got a tiny dick, If you're out there bragging about the size of your schlong definitely isn't that big. We've talked about this before. It reminds me of whenever we've all had that friend who's like, oh, I don't even care that she broke up with me, man. What are you talking about? I was going to break up with her anyways. So it's whatever. So she did it first. Whatever. I don't even care, bro. I don't even care. You get like 2 drinks in the guy, 3 drinks in the guy. He's crying later at night on your shoulder. Oh, why did he break up with me? When you have to overcompensate, you're insecure. Something's missing there, dude. Something's missing. Another example, my friend's dad, when he was like one of the first guys, that we know to buy like one of the newer kinds of cars, the really small ones. I forgot what it was, a Fiat maybe it was. And like he was like obviously trying to convince himself that he made the right decision. He's like, yeah, this thing is great. Isn't it so great? It's just like, it's such a nice car and it's wonderful. And then like an hour later, we're all sitting in the house talking about something else. And out of nowhere, he chimes in like, yeah, that car really is great, isn't it? It looks nice. And then, of course, it was so obvious. It was showing that he was insecure about the choice he made. So he's trying to bolster up in his own mind the car. The same thing Rush is doing here. I'm so smart that I don't even know how smart I am. He said, even when I'm wrong, I'm right. Who does that? Who does that? Only massively insecure people are always, saying shit like that. But then the irony is right after that, he goes into a rant where he says, and these climate scientists think they know what the weather was like, thousands of years ago and millions of years ago. How could they possibly know that? You got to wrap your mind around the concept. We don't really know. Well, obviously you're not all that smart, because the reality is the people with the fucking degrees are trained in knowing that stuff. And what's even funnier is that he briefly mentioned some of the ways that we figure that stuff out. He's like, something to do with the ice and the tree rings or whatever, but how do we know? Well, we know because of the number of carbon bubbles in the ice that we can date back. We can figure these things out. Oh, hey guys, look, X amount of carbon dioxide was in the atmosphere in the year 2013. Okay, we'll check the ice. How many bubbles showed up? Oh, look at that. I'm just making this up here, but there's 7 bubbles. Okay, so whenever there's X amount of carbon dioxide, it is 7 bubbles. Now let's go back and check the ice. Go to like Antarctica or wherever where there's ice that goes, thick to millions of years ago. All right, check what was it like around this time right here. Well, there's X amount of carbon dioxide, so it appears as if at that time the temperature was about X. This is science. This is the people with the fucking degrees who are experts in figuring this shit out have figured it out. But he goes out there and argues against their entire area of expertise. That reminds me, like, that's like going to a doctor and saying, Doc, here are my symptoms. Oh, okay, well, it's clear that you have X. And then you say, no, I don't. Who's the fucking doctor here, dipshit? I'm the one with the degree. I'm the one with the expertise. You came here. Let me tell you what the answer is. I disagree. Doesn't fucking matter if you disagree. You're a radio talk show host, son. Have a little bit of humility. I like to, essentially bow down at the altar of expertise on any different topic. You have to listen to the people who know that shit. It's so funny. Rush Limbaugh, he did a show for the Golf Channel a while back where Hank Haney, the guy who used to be Tiger's coach, I think it was Rush went to that guy to get better with his golf game. And, of course, he's listening to the guy, and because, okay, the guy's the fucking expert. Of course I'm going to listen. He knows the golf swing better than I do. But for some reason, when it comes to science, well, fuck those climatologists, man. They don't know what they're talking about. How do we really know? When you argue against just the entire field of science, like, I'm just going to disregard the entire field of climate science because I can't figure it out. How do I don't know, so how does anybody know? Well, because your job is to sit there and bloviate about how the Republicans are awesome and the Democrats suck, so you wouldn't know about climate science, you dipshit. I don't know how anybody listens to his show, which leads to my final point, man. They don't. He's all number one listened to talk show. Right. That's why your flagship station dropped you. That's why you couldn't re-up your contract. That's why you're still parroting the ratings that you got in the early 1990s in your prime. Dude, advertisers have a no-rush clause when they make deals with radio stations. Why? Because ever since the Sandra Fluke incident and before that, you've said so many stupid things that advertisers are scared to death of you. So you're subsidized by the right-wing think tanks. You don't have any fucking ratings. You're a joke, dude. You're talking to yourself. You and like 7 dudes in Alabama and the people from Media Matters who are listening to you just to get all the crazy things you talk about so that they could put them up and then I can mock them. You're not a serious person, Rush, and you prove it day in and day out.